Hey, it says I'm live. What's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here, talking to you, speaking with you beneath the grand canopy of the tree of life here in the lovely hill country in Texas. And we're Sunday night AstroLive. This is it. This is the place you want to be on Sunday night to travel the highways and the byways of astrology and the cosmos, mundane astrology. But we'll get into a little personal stuff as well, and try to bring it home for you so you can have a little piece of understanding about how this whole thing works on the macro level and on the micro level, as without, so within, and vice versa. Hey, we got Christine Mose in the house. Hello, Christine. Leanne, what's happening, Leanne? FUP77, the lovely and talented Joan S. Tamara Garth. Hello, TG. Good to see you here in the virtual. Isla Wren times 2. Hi, Isla. Hey, I did an anti-mosquito thing tonight, so let's see if I can hold the fort a little bit longer. I'm gonna try to get as much in as I can for about 2 hours. If I can really burn for about 90 minutes, I could do that. But we got about a 2-hour chunk tonight, and a lot of ground to cover because the river is moving fast. The river is moving very, very fast. Megan McIntyre, Judy Anderson, Frank Bright, DJ MC, all in the house, J.R. Williams, Sue Escobar. What's happening, Faith? There we go. My cousin Sandra with the captain. I hope you guys are doing well in your part of this lovely terrain, this world, this domain, this strange domain that we inhabit. I hope you're doing well. All right, let's see who else we got here. Haven, what's going on, Haven? Evan Taylor, what's going on, Evan? Checking in from the great north. Can we say the great white north anymore? I mean, think about that. I mean, this is a really kind of, this is a valid conversational point. Can we say the great white north? Wow, gee, we can maybe say white north, but maybe not great. That's giving the white north a little too much credit. Oh, Joe. Hi, Joe. Good to see you. Oh, I knocked it out of the park with the interview. Thanks, Kevin. Hey, Kurt, what's happening? Good to see you. Jennifer, Carolina, EC 2189, Kaku, Snow is Bigotry. Yeah. Oh, Lake Superior. There's Anna Wilson. Only 8 months out of the year up here. Yeah, I mean, come on now, Great White North. Everything is under the scrutiny of the new social engineers. And some phrases, some words are not going to pass the test. You know what I found out tonight? You have it's okay to be a white cat. Oh boy. Yeah, were we kind of ahead of the curve on that? Let's see who else we have here. Bill Johns. What's going on? Bill from Philly. Billy from Philly. Soleil. Hi, Soleil. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. We can say what we feel like. It is them who feel all restrained. I got no problem with that, Mr. Maury. Let's see. We got the Seeker Spirit vlog. Hey, what's going on, Seeker? Puka Bag. Hey, crazy. I'm still up after 2 a.m. All right, we're bringing in the post midnight ratings. We're bringing in the post midnight ratings. We're bringing in the overseas ratings. So, I wish I was Deborah Lynn Art. Does Deborah Lynn Art wish that you were her as well? Wink, wink. Still might have. Let's see, Kevin, Bob and Doug McKenzie. We also have Bob and Doug that flew the Red Dragon capsule. Oh yeah, I remember those guys. They were funny. I thought it was a good interview on Friday too. Although there was, and again, you could disagree. You can disagree that it wasn't a good interview. I don't have a problem with that. There was a guy that came in and maybe he had some constructive comments. He thought it was a very underwhelming interview, and he thought that Ole looked bored half the way through. And I'm like, maybe he was. I don't know. I thought it was a good interview. Most of the people in the chat thought it was. I felt really good after the interview was over. I'm a pretty good litmus for this stuff. So I don't know what the story was with that. So, to each their own. I thought it was good, and I really enjoyed hanging out with Oli for that period of time. I think we're gonna have, if I'm not mistaken, I think Penny Kelly. I know the Crimmies are supposed to be on this Friday. I got to talk to them because Penny Kelly can only be on this Friday, or else we're not going to get her till August. So I want to I want to get her on as soon as possible. I think she'd be, and maybe we do an hour with Penny and an hour with the Crimmies. I mean, maybe that'll how it'll work out, and that'd be fine. I'm sure the Crimmies would be okay with it. You know, the Crimmies are kind of like a rock opera. When we bring them on, it's like four sides. You know, four sides. You get the rock opera with the Crimmies. So maybe the Crimmies just do a 33 and a third. I was thinking about records today, actually. Jan says, I don't think he was bored. Let me just go back there, Jan. I don't think he was bored. He just has a very calm demeanor. He was into it. I thought so. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. And if somebody is like kind of checked out on me or something, I'm pretty aware of it. Let's see. Annette, loving you readings outside. Sagittarius, Scorp Rising. Love the Friday guys. Reading. Had great dreams. Oh, good. We like to be the facilitator of great dreams. Mars and Aries. Indeed, my FB timeline is popping off. Well, I got a little Mars and Aries treat for you guys. Not tonight. I got a Mars and Aries treat for you when Mars goes really strong into Aries. I'm not gonna divulge it though. But it is a Mars and Aries ritual. And I'm sure many of you will experience this being quite liberating. Yeah, I thought he was in sync too. That's what I thought. I would agree with you, Anna. Hello, Linda. Catch Max Egan. The Crow House Cornholio test is depopulation. All right. What did Ursilia say? Somebody was commenting. Great interview. Thanks, Puka. Hey, Chana. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Ursilia, great interview. I think it's what he always looks like. I mean, he's like, you know, he's not flatlining. Let's not say he's flatline. He's not in the flatline world. I just think he's also always very calm. That's what I think. Like me. I'm always very calm, very peaceful, very contemplative until I start saying fuck you. In which case that kind of goes out the window, or fuck off, or fuck this, or fuck that. Okay. Let's see. What do we have here? Ole. Let's see. He's chill. Yeah, definitely. Michelle Cannon Free. Hello. Welcome to the house. Welcome to Chatlandia. Like the Trump interview with Sean Hannity. I have a question. If you like the interview, there is a question. I have a question if you watch the interview, okay? So here's the question. Hannity asked him what his plans are for the next 4 years. And I'm going to talk about Trump's chart tonight. And Trump said, you know, I sprayed this stuff on my leg. One of those little bastards bite me again. Trump said, you know, experience is a funny word. I came here without a lot of experience. And he started to kind of riff on this experience thing. And then he kind of went off on hiring that idiot John Bolton. And he didn't really address the question of like, what is he going to do for the next 4 years? Now, you could read that one of three ways. Number one, you could read it with, okay, he's going to play possum. Like, this is possum Trump. But that's not normally how we think of Trump. We don't think of Trump as possum Trump. So the art of Sun Tzu, right? The art of war. You want to make your opponent think you're weak. Like that is an essential element of the art of war. So is Trump pulling a Sun Tzu thing by not saying what he or his people would really like him to say? Like, here's what I plan on doing, Sean. The next 4 years, I'm really turning my platform and my agenda into being the law and order president, the law and order candidate. And we just started with the deep state, and we've been really They've attempted to block every attempt that we've had to move forward with this administration. And he could list them all off. He could list Russiagate, Ukraine, anything. And everybody say, yeah, you're right. But Sean, we've made incredible progress. There are things that have happened that people are not aware of, and I can't divulge them. And we're moving forward with some of these things. And my commitment to the American people for the next 4 years is to continue that. Right? I mean, I think that would have been a good answer. And I think people would have known what he was talking about. They would have understood and said, you know what? Wow, okay. All right. He didn't come off as bluster. He did not come off as bluster. He didn't come off and say, hey, we're gonna not only have the greatest economy in the world ever, where it's going to be better than the last 4 years, which is usually what Trump does. But he didn't do that. And there are people that speculate that maybe either his heart's not in it, he is tired, or perhaps he knows something about the new emerging order, which I'm going to talk about tonight. So I didn't see the interview. I read the exchange between the two. So but I did listen to his voice on the, it was like a preview of the interview, like Hannity did like a little preview thing. He sounded horrible, I have to say. And of course, somebody who talks a lot, and I don't talk as much as Trump does, but I know it can be really challenging on the voice. So perhaps that was part of it, but it didn't sound great. And again, I'm going to try to get away from the political. And look, we live in a political time. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. See, you didn't like politics. You're in it now because you're living in a political world. It is a political tug of war right now. So I had somebody say, hey, you really know your stuff about astrology. It was a great show. But I didn't want to hear about the Occupy movement or this or that. Look, there's going to be a time when you're not going to hear about those things. You're not going to hear about it. And it's probably, not that far away. You may not even have the internet to hear about it. Okay. I'm just a little preface there, a little tongue-in-cheek preface. So, but this is where we are. We are in a highly charged political moment that is part of a massive sociological paradigm shift that is taking us to the fourth industrial revolution. And I think we know what that means. At least if we don't, we can certainly explore it. And I have some ideas about it, and I'm going to get into some of those tonight. So the other thing about Trump that concerned me a little bit is the ratings, the polling. Now we know that last time Hillary was way out in front, and people thought, oh, she's going to win. There were a few astrologers, I was one of them, that said Trump was going to win. And he did. Now, here's the difference now. The Democrats, these people, they're not Democrats, by the way. Can we just dispel of the name Democrat? They're not Democrats. These people are hardcore social Marxists, leftists, baked in Bolshevists. That's what they are, okay? That is what they are. And they use the elements of the time in order to create a paradigm shift or a paradigm change, which is what they're doing. So they knew that Hillary Clinton was incredibly unlikable. She was unlikable. People didn't like her. That's why she didn't fare well. Biden, on the other hand, they're going to bury him. You're not going to see a lot of Joe Biden. You're going to have a lot of other people talking about how great he is, how wonderful he is, what a nice guy he is, what a great man he is. That's all bullshit. That's all just that's poppycock for the brain. Okay. It's bullshit. He's not a nice guy. He was never a nice guy. He was a conniving opportunist who found a way to enrich his own personal gain and those around him at every single turn. Every time Joe Biden was appointed a political office, he used it to his advantage. The guy was a senator from Delaware. Do you know what Delaware is? It's a bunch of PO boxes. That's what Delaware is. Delaware is where companies are incorporated. So, the majority of his constituents were PO boxes because that's where the corporations had their addresses. They didn't have any physical address. They didn't have their world headquarters in Delaware. They just received correspondence. In fact, they received correspondence probably someplace else. Right. So he really was the leader of a bunch of zip codes. That's what he was. But he's essentially he's been a dirty dealer all of his life. And we've looked at his chart, Scorpio rising, sun in the 12th house, backroom player, backroom dealer every single time. Okay. So this idea that he's some wonderful Mr. Rogers type is a bunch of horse shit. And just go ahead and dispel that. Okay. But what they're going to do now is they've made him out to be this doddering old man. And it's like, oh, how can you be so hard on him? He probably hasn't had his depends changed today. Do you see the psychology around this? You see the psychology? Like, how many people, this is interesting to think about. How many people have elder parents like Joe Biden? Think about that for a moment. They can relate to Joe Biden because they've got a freaking elder parent who is, having a difficult time, making the reality construct come together. Now they may say, well, geez, my parent, my mom or my dad didn't remember me 10 minutes after I visited them. So why would Joe Biden be a good president? I mean, I think if you're thinking logically and rationally, you wouldn't have to go past that sentence. Okay. You wouldn't have to go past that sentence. But unfortunately, we live in a world now where people aren't thinking logically or they're not thinking rationally. And it appears to be that the majority of Americans are under a very deep spell. Very deep spell. So when somebody appears to be a symbol of something, like Joe Biden, instead of it being a cautionary symbol, what it becomes is a cloying and sentimental symbol. That's what it becomes. Oh, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. My grandfather's like that guy. He's just a sweet guy, right? And then you've got Trump, who, if he ever got into a debate with Biden, and I'm sure that's not going to happen, but if it does happen, they'll probably whip up some kind of, I don't know, CGI Biden or something. Right, they'll hit the clone Biden with a supercharged dose of supercharged plasma adrenochrome, and he just snorting fire for about 2 hours. But that'll be about it, right? That'll be about the only kind of thing they'll be able to get out of that kind of like a demonstration, right? That's it. So they're going to keep him in the bunker for as long as they can. And oh, by the way, they're going to keep you in the bunker, and you in the bunker, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. They're going to keep all of you in the bunker for as long as they can. That's what they want to do now. It is Mercury retrograde. We're going to rev up the astrology talk. Mercury retrograde. But before we do that, let's do the little invocation here. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun, which is the universal light, which is the light of Sananda, Yeshua Emmanuel, we ask that the highest and best information, the greatest wisdom come through this channel during this period of time. And we ask for all of us, not just me, this channel, this entity, but all of us to be able to have that kind of flow and information and guidance and radiance in our lives. And we ask for courage and faith and heart, wisdom, intelligence, compassion, humor, all these things we wish so that we can share them and serve the Most High and our brothers and sisters as best as we can. We also ask that any karmic residue that we have be cleansed, purified, cleaned away, so that we all return to our sovereign expression once this is through. And so be it. Okay, it is done. Let's go. Let's ramp it up. It is Mercury retrograde time, and they're going to walk you right back into your four walls. Oh, yeah. The heat is on. Heat is on. You know why? Because the economy was making a bit of a comeback. Oh, shit. Wow. We don't want that. We don't want that economic turnaround, do we? We don't want that boomerang. No way. No way. They want you to stay in your home. They want to run this economy right into the ground. They're gonna run it right into the ground because it was Trump's economy, and they're gonna run it right into the ground because guess what? They hate people that voted for Donald Trump. They hate you. They hate you. They hate you. Don't ever get on your knee because that's not going to work for them. And the rest of you who are kind of paddling in the same boat, okay, just wait. The hate will be there for you at some point too, because we've always seen this that the left eats its own. You'll be eaten, trust me. And I was having a conversation with a client tonight who I'm doing a reading for on Friday, and I'm still doing readings. I'm trying to get back to everybody. I was thinking, if Trump does not win the election, and there's a chance, by the way, under normal circumstances, that chart's a winning chart. And I'm going to go through his chart tonight again, but these are not normal circumstances. These are not normal circumstances. But if for some reason or perchance that Biden is the winner, there's a lot of people are thinking that this will spell the end of America as we know it, because right now, let's face it, we're already teetering on the edge. Okay. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Even if they have an undercard, like maybe it's Susan Rice or Kamala Harris or Stacey Abrams, because you know it's going to be one of those women. Michelle Obama, I don't think Michelle Obama is going to work. I think that would be a bad move on their part for Michelle Obama because she's not very likable. And I know that there are people that just love her, but she's not very likable. Probably the least offensive out of all of them would be Susan Rice, although I find her offensive. That's my take. Okay, Stacey is going to be one of those three. There's another woman who, where does she? I think she's from Maryland. I think she might have served in the Army. She's an African American woman. She's kind of like this dark horse, but would she be the kind of the ideological sort of point person for their agenda? So I'm just going to tell you right now, okay, right now, if Joe Biden wins the election, don't freak out. Do not freak out. There may be a moment if you're in that camp and you think that it's going to be bad, because they're basically sharpening their knives now. The left is sharpening their knives. You think it's going to be bad. Okay. I had this intuition. I'm pretty good at this stuff. I had this intuition that's not going to go the way they think it's going to go. It is not going to go the way they think it's going to go. That it will be troubled, very, very troubled. And they may move very quickly to do everything they can to solidify whatever game that they've made. But I just kind of leaned into that and said, this is not going to go the way they think it is. And they think it's all just going to go according to plan. And I'm not so sure about that. Now, there's a very good chance based on his chart that Trump will win. And if he does win, then we're going to have some very intense times ahead of us again. Now, my personal feeling, and again, it has something to do with this chart, I'm not sure he finishes his second term. Now, we know that when we have the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, it's usually an alignment where a president is either assassinated or attempted to be assassinated. So Trump is, and look, let's say it's not Trump. What if Joe Biden is the guy? Oh, wouldn't that be interesting? And Joe Biden is the guy that gets popped because of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and boom, we've got the VP waiting in the wings. They could blame it on an angry white person, right? A white terrorist or white nationalist, and it may not even be Biden. And they can CGI just about anything. They could deep fake reality now. So even if they do it, who's to say it would even be that event, right? These are the times we're living in. Okay. But I feel like, again, that there was something, if Biden is somehow elected, something's going to go amiss here. It's not going to go according to their plan. If Trump gets elected, I don't think he's going to finish out his term. That's my intuition. I don't think he's going to get killed either, by the way. but I don't think he's going to finish out his term. So this is going to be a critical time for him. And I get into that astrologically, by the way. We're going to look at that tonight. So they're marching you back into your home. They don't want you out. They don't want you out. They don't want you enjoying yourself. They don't want you working. They want to just, I'm saying it right now. They want to wipe out the entrepreneurial, business owner. They want you done and gone. Okay. Done and gone. So tomorrow on the Friday Forecast, tomorrow on 50 Minutes of Flame, my bad, 50 Minutes of Flame, I'm going to get into stuff that is going to blow your mind. I'm not going to get into it tonight because I got too much astrological stuff to share. I'm not going to get into it, but tomorrow you're going to want to be a part of the show. You're going to want to watch where I'm going with tomorrow's show. It's going to connect dots. It's going to connect some major dots for you. And I'm going to illustrate what we as people who maybe don't want to be a part of the Agenda 21 world or Agenda 2030 world, that we have a different idea about how we want things to evolve on the planet versus the script writers. When I show you tomorrow what I plan on showing you, and by the way, it's nothing deep or dark conspiratorial. It's out there. It's available for everybody. I just connected some dots. When I show you this, you're going to see kind of what we're up against from an organizational standpoint and perspective. Okay. So just wrap your head around that. Now, they want you to stay at home. They don't want you to go out to the polls. They don't want you to go out and vote. They don't want you to go to a Trump rally. They don't. So we're the 3 states that are having the highest rate of coronavirus: Florida, Texas, Arizona. Those are all states, by the way, that they want to push into the blue. I found out tonight, I didn't know this, that the 47th least patriotic state in the nation is Texas. Go figure. Texas. It's right above New Jersey, which was 50th, New York, and California. The number 5 state, 5th most patriotic state was Maryland. And that kind of blew my mind, right? Those statistics are out there. It's just a little interesting little tidbit, right? But so they don't want people to go out. They want to hit those states with paper ballots. They want to send you the ballot. They want you to vote at home. If you vote at home, it's going to be the biggest scam. It'll be the biggest voter scam, biggest voter fraud in history. Okay. But right now we got a Mercury retrograde. So if anybody's paying attention, which a lot of you are, you're already starting to see some glitches in that system. There was a mail carrier who was caught throwing away GOP ballots. That's a fact. I'll even show it to you. You guys think I'm messing around here? Here. So I'll show you. Here we go. This is it right here. Oh, this is bullshit. Mail carrier charged with altering. This is the one that goes from Democrat to Republican. That's horse shit. That's it. They're just, hold on. I got to find you the right one. Yeah, this is the one right here. It's a postal worker caught on camera dumping Fort Bend County. All right, I'm going to show it to you guys. So this is what we're talking about here. This is Houston, by the way. Postal worker caught on camera dumping Fort Bend County Sheriff Troy Nell's campaign flyers. They even caught the guy. We don't have to play the audio, but You can watch it. So he's basically saying, not a good day for America. Fort Bend County Sheriff Troy Nels says an unidentified postal worker threw away a bundle of his campaign mailer flyers. Nels, who's up against fellow Republican Kathleen Wall in the July primary runoff election, says he learned a lot of the incident from business owner. Learned of the incident from business owner who called him. The business owner showed Nels video footage in which a postal worker could be seen throwing an object in the dumpster. So who's the postal worker? They're not giving that up, are they? Nels expressed disappointment about the incident. He believes a person infringed on his First Amendment rights. He said to file a report for Fort Bend County Sheriffs. That's a federal crime. That is a federal offense. So there you go. There's a little Mercury retrograde action for you. Instead of delivering, throw it out. So this is interesting. Now, I have not gotten into who these two people are. I don't know who his opponent is, but that dude, he didn't like that guy. It might have been personal, or it might have been maybe doing something for the other candidate. Okay, but the world that we're living in now, there's no justice. There's no justice. And it's doubtful that guy will even be suspended because he's a postal worker. They have a very strong union, blah, 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 blah. So there you go. There's a little Mercury retrograde. But they want to get you back in your home. Mercury retrograde. People, how are people going to respond to this now? This is a very interesting topic. How people respond. Not well, I don't believe. Not with Mars going into Aries. Okay. So let's just put this on for a moment. Okay. So people went through a period where they did what they were told. They were good citizens. They respected the fact that they needed to stay inside so COVID-19 would not be spread at great personal risk to their own ability to earn a living and support their own business and other people, thinking that they would get a little bump from the government. After about 3 months, they bring people back into their jobs and into their work, and we would be business as usual. That ain't happening. We know it's not happening, and I've been saying it's not going to happen, okay? So just as people began to do that, right, just as people started to get into stride, just as the economy started to kind of get itself back together. Remember that big picture of all those people in the Ozarks? By the way, I didn't notice that there was a massive kind of outbreak of coronavirus in Missouri. I didn't see that. And I pay attention to a lot of news. But just as people were getting their stride, all of a sudden the world's on fire. We have Minneapolis, and we have the riots, and we have everything that went, and there are riots, not protests. Oh, I got news about CHOP, by the way. I'm going to tell you that tonight. I'm not going to save it for tomorrow, but I got news about CHOP tonight. It's going to blow your mind. But just as people are getting back in stride, right, all of a sudden it's the purge. You know, we're witnessing the purge, scaring the shit out of people, and all of a sudden now Black Lives Matter is it's the new thing, the hottest new thing. I got so much to share about this tomorrow. I'm not going to get into it tonight. But now that the fires have cooled somewhat, and what next stage? Let's take the statues down. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, take the statues down. It's okay. It's okay. You're not breaking into somebody's business. They're just statues anyway. Now it's cooling down, and guess what? They want to run you back into your house. So people have sat home, and they've watched. They've watched America burn. They've watched the police do nothing. They've watched people do the Macarena with Antifa. Right? They've watched people get on their knees. Right? They've watched people, this asshole from Chick-fil-A, basically tell them to go shine somebody's shoes. right? Let's right the wrongs of our past. Just go, find a random black person and go shine their shoes. Look at me, I'm doing it, right? People are watching this. They're going, what the fuck? And Chick-fil-A tomorrow, when I get into this story, Chick-fil-A is deep in it, deep in it, as well as a lot of other people. So people are sitting around watching all this stuff, right? And they're not happy. They thought, okay, we've done what we needed to do. We didn't really buy it. We didn't like Fauci. Birx was a little too Karen-y for our taste, but we did it. Now we're going back, and now we got to sit home and watch the place burn to the ground. And in some cases, actually have their own business destroyed. How do you think people feel? How do you think those people feel? Do you think those people are just going to go walk right back into their homes? Do you think that those people are all of a sudden going to, when they make masks mandatory, and that's coming, I'd say it's about a 90% chance all across the United States that the mask is going to be mandatory. Do you think people are going to do that? You think they're going to just put on a mandatory mask? Oh no, that's not going to happen. That will not happen. And people are not going to be happy about having their bars closed or having the capacity of their restaurants truncated. Oh no. So what they're doing is they're priming people. They're priming the other side now. They prime the other side with all the other stuff, right? The Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. We know the story. We know the kerosene, and then they lit it, and then that side has been lit. That side, the 1-2 punch, the left and the right of Antifa and Black Lives Matter and everybody else in between. Now they're priming the other side. The other side, they're priming because these are the things that the other side really values. They value their freedom. They value their leisure time. They value their being able to go to work and do something well, or have a business and take care of and support other people. And they're priming that side. And I'm telling you right now, these people are not going to be happy. They're going to play the mask okey doke, and they're going to try to get people back home. You're going to see a whole other wave of protest. And now you have the other side who's been pretty well primed. Okay. And are they going to clash? Are we going to have this clash now of people wearing masks and not wearing masks? And maybe that's really what it boils down to. Maybe that's how we're going to separate out the next civil war. You wear a mask, you're on one side. You're not wearing a mask. But shit, man, you could just throw a mask on and pretend you're on one side or not. Even that's going to be very arbitrary and hard to manage, right? So I really don't want us to have a civil war, because civil wars are nasty and they don't resolve themselves. They don't resolve themselves quickly. Like, civil wars can last 3 years. Seriously. They could last 3 years, 4 years, and it can be bloody. And it could go on and on and on, and you never know who's winning. Or, I mean, there's just a lot of unexplored territory that goes along with that. But it certainly feels like that's what they're doing. They're just throwing the kerosene on both sides and light them up. So now it's probably going to be the right, or the people that don't want to wear a mask. They're the ones that are going to be agitated. And the challenge with this now is that, again, they can bring anybody out. We got the True Node in Gemini, and they can bring anybody out. It could be somebody who just another, false flagger or psychological operative. I mean, they can make things look the way they want. They can make things look, they can stage things. Like, a lot of this Karen stuff I'm seeing feels really staged. Really staged. You know why? Because the Karens are going after, quote unquote, black people, so-called black African-American people. That's all you see. You don't see them going after other people. You don't. So even the Karen stuff feels really staged. Totally. It's another psychological operation. And it's like, aren't we tired of this stuff? Aren't we tired? I want to show you something. This is you're in the True Node in Gemini when you see something like this. I got to show this to you guys. You got to see this. It's going to just flip your wig. So Major League Baseball is trying to make a comeback. They're trying to make a comeback. And I gotta find. Here's the story. Here's the story. This is just nuts. This is totally nuts. But it totally fits for where we are astrologically. Totally fits. I'm gonna show you guys. I'll even play the video. Get some audio in this thing. This is nuts. Okay. So the San Francisco Giants will display cardboard cutouts of their fans at Oracle Park this season. The franchise is asking season ticket holders to send in images of themselves for the cutouts. Okay, so you will pay a price for a season ticket, but you won't be able to go and watch the game. However, your cardboard cutout will be. It's calling the Giants calling it the Giants fan cutout program, and it's a chance for the fans to be at Oracle Park, even when you're home watching the game. In addition, the later states that continued health risks related to the pandemic are the reason for the lack of fans during this shortened season. The cutouts will be made of weatherproof material in case it rains while the team is playing. Giant fans that aren't season ticket holders can also have cutouts of themselves in the stands for a $99 fee. That's 33 times 3. Are you kidding me? No. This makes complete and utter sense. The ridiculousness of this makes complete and utter sense. You know you are in Mercury retrograde. I'm sorry, you know you're in the true node in Gemini when your cardboard cutout gets to watch a game and you don't. You will be at home. How about that? Here it is. How to fill an empty stadium. Why are they even going to just they could just deep fake this stuff. Totally deep fake it. They could just put in a whole crowd with the right technology. But they don't want to do that, do they? No. Look at see, this is what it's going to look like. There you go. How to fill an empty stadium. This is how attendance. This is what attendance will look like in 2020. Pathetic. Pathetic. So, what are you going to do after the season's over? And you bring your cardboard cutout home and say, "Hey, did you have a good time at the game with the Giants this season?" Oh yeah, I was glad you could be there for me. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. I mean, they could at least put pen cameras, little tube cameras in the eyes, so they can actually see the game from the spot of their seat. And maybe like do a little smell-o-vision thing with the smell of a hot dog or something. You get a sensorium kind of thing. It's ridiculous. Think about this. We are living in a world where you will not be able to go to a baseball game, but a cardboard cutout of you can. And guess what? You don't even have to have season tickets. You just pay $99 and have a cardboard cutout of you at the Giants game. It's probably one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. But there'll be people that'll give them the money, right? And they'll probably say, oh, well, this money is going to go into this cause or this group or whatever, right? They'll incentivize. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really good. I'm sending my $99 or part of my season ticket money is going to this group or this cause, and I'm feeling so much better about myself and my life. Yeah, I've had too much baseball. Well, here's what I think. This is so subversive. I think people should do it. I think they should pay the Giants $99 and send them the worst fucking pictures. See, that's a Gemini thing too. Just send them something really bizarre, really, really bizarre. Like a picture of like an axe murder or something. Okay, my 14-year-old's kicking in. I'll play along with that game. I'll send them a picture. Yeah, I'll send them a picture. I'll make them that would be great. All of a sudden now they're populated with all these pictures that have a very, very different connotation and meaning. Yeah, that'd be a fun game to play. Anyway, there you go. So I've been thinking about the nodes. I want to talk a little about the nodes. There's your nodal spotlight. Your cutout gets to go to the game, but sorry, you don't. The other side of the whole equation is Sagittarius. And I wanted to talk about Sagittarius and the Sagittarius in the descendancy. It's a very important thing that I haven't really touched on, because I talk a lot about Gemini in the true node mode, or the North Node. I tend to call it the true node. But Sagittarius on the descending plane of the moon is really important. Let's get into it a little bit. Sagittarius represents law. It represents order. If you think about Sagittarius, it represents religious order. If we think about orthodoxy with Sagittarius, we think about law, we think about learning, higher knowledge, wisdom, very, very Sagittarian principles. There's an order around that, right? In order to glean the insights and the wisdom of Sagittarius, right, you have to have kind of an ordered mind, an ordered existence to get a glimpse of something that's higher. But it also creates a structure. And when you look at the evolution of the chart, if you have the structure of the ninth house, which is Sagittarius, begin to disassemble itself, which is what's happening now because of the South Node, then the house next to it, which is Capricorn, begins to feel the disassembling, right? Because if you have the order that's the implicate order of the ninth house, then the explicate order of the 10th house is mutual. But when one breaks down, the other breaks down as well. And that's what we're witnessing. We're watching essentially lawlessness. We're seeing lawlessness. That's the South Node in Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius, we're seeing lawlessness. There's no rule of law. Now, Sagittarius makes the law. Capricorn enforces the law. So Sagittarius is the lawmaker. The judges are Capricorn. They're the ones that issue edicts. That's how the game works. If there is no law, then theoretically there should be no judgment either. Theoretically, if you, again, I've used this example before, if you're going 85 miles per hour in a 75 mile per hour zone, you're breaking the law. But if there's nobody there to clock you and then take you to court, you may have broken the law in the mind of God's eye, but you're not getting busted in the mind of man's eye, right? Or mind of man. God, not God, judges, my bad. Sorry about that. You understand that, right? This is how it works. But we're watching this breakdown take place. Now, what's also really interesting is that Sagittarius is a sign that is associated in many cases with bigotry. It's a sign that's connected to bigotry. And the bigotry can be anything from, I know what's right and you don't. Like I got the big picture and you don't. It's a form of bigotry. Bigotry does not have to be racial. Okay? It does not have to be racial. It doesn't. It can be, and it's often associated with bigotry, but you can be bigoted towards another person based on their intelligence. You can be bigoted towards another person based on their appearance. You can be bigoted towards another person based on any number of factors. It is not racially exclusive, okay? There are people who have a religious attitude that are so pious that they're bigots towards other people. And that's the truth. Okay, so bigotry can be experienced across any number of platforms. But because it's been associated with race, that's how we define it mostly. So Sagittarius is a sign that can be noted for its bigotry, because as a sign, it can see the big picture in a lot of cases, but it can also have a big overreach. And that's when Sagittarius can get into trouble. They always land on their feet eventually, so it really doesn't matter. But this is what will happen. And you can see, and I've talked about this before, as a sign, Sagittarius can just be completely debauched. And then they can go into a completely different direction. And, I've quoted chapter and verse on this on a number of occasions. Most recently, there's a gal that lives here kind of near town, worked for a friend of mine, got to know her a bit. And man, she's very, very, how do I say this? She was interesting. And she was also very much into, how do I say it? Partying, right? We're young, we party. She had a side to her that was kind of wild. She had a really intense event happen to her, which I don't want to get into, right? But she's a Sagittarius and kind of wild and free. And then all of a sudden, she gets the call, and she gets rid of all of her Doreen virtue cards and, and all that stuff, right? And she goes to the other side and says, it's all about Jesus, 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 Jesus. And this is what Sagittarius will do. And that's fine, right? It's fine. The only challenge with that is that sometimes, as they go to the other side, it's a mutable sign, and, Gemini is the back into Sagittarius. So they'll go hardcore. And then it's like, whoa, shit. You were a lot more fun when you were getting wasted and talking shit about people and pretending you were kind of above it all. Now it's like you're not getting wasted and you're going a different direction, and a little hard to handle, right? Sagittarius can do that. It can do that. So we have piety and we have bigotry as kind of negative Sag. And I guess if you want to throw in the racial thing, maybe, but piety and bigotry, those are the two things that I would say. Now, what happens is when we have Sagittarius in the Descendant, we will see some of these things come to the surface. We'll see them come to the surface. Ironically, what's happening now, and this is kind of mind-blowing, right, is ironically, now we seem to be very polarized, and we're having a conversation here. We're very polarized. And now all of a sudden, there are forces or elements inside the so-called Black community, the Black Lives Matter community, and I don't really think it speaks for everybody, by the way, so I'm just going to be upfront about that. But now California is working on a bill that essentially embraces segregation, and it's like pulling away affirmative action, and it's a really weird thing that's going on, and people don't know this. They don't understand it. This bill passes, right? Because they want to have separate this and separate that and separate this and separate that. And this is where kind of the trend is going. And California doesn't understand, or maybe they do, but the people there, they won't. That once all of this gets baked, all of a sudden, there will be a very distinct difference. And this idea of segregation, which people fought very hard for to end, all of a sudden it's back in vogue. And what do we have? We have negative Sag. And now we're moving into this space and place where people have a bigoted attitude against another group of people. And I don't care who you are. It's just the way it is. And I said, well, we don't want this. And we want to be over here, and you're going to be over there because you represent this and we represent this. And there's one group that's defining the terms and conditions. And there's another group that's not. And by the way, that group doesn't speak for everybody. And I just want to be clear about that. I want to be very, very crystal clear about it. They don't speak for everybody. So I just don't want to lump everybody into one group. It's not fair. I don't think you'd agree with me with that. So now we're moving into negative Sag. You see what I'm talking about? Right. These are like laws that seem, it's like we originally had these laws theoretically, like the Civil Rights Act and stuff like that, to, say, look, you got to get together. Okay. We're going to bus you. We're going to civil rights you. You got to get together. And now we have the South Node in Sagittarius, and it's saying, guess what? You probably don't need to get together. In fact, we need to stop that. Where is that coming from? It's not coming from the other group. The other group is saying, hey, what? We don't necessarily have to want this or have this, right? No. So we're headed to, that's negative Sag. That's negative Sagittarius. Plus you add the lawlessness. It's just flat out lawlessness with negative Sag. And I'm okay with people governing themselves. I feel like we need a lot less of it. But what we're getting is we're getting something else. We're not getting like true freedom for everybody. That's not what's happening. That's just not what's happening. Trust me. And if that was the case and everybody could self-govern, let's bring it on. More self-governance, real self-governance, more responsibility, right? But that's not the model that's being carved out. It's just not. So we're getting something we're getting really a massive con job, which I can probably get into more. But we're seeing a lot of negative Sagittarius now. The lack of order, the lack of either religious order. Like, where are the religious leaders? Where are the so-called religious leaders who, speak out for equality, and they speak out for the universalization of all people, right? You don't hear a peep from them. They're nowhere to be found. They're missing in action. And who's speaking up for them? Dan Cathy, the CEO for Chick-fil-A. Go shine somebody's shoes. There you go. There's your act of contrition. Get on a knee, shine somebody's shoes. There's your new religion. They're nowhere, right? They're nowhere to be found. So we're seeing a lot of this Sagittarius and Descendants. And what'll happen? What will happen? What will happen? If you poke the dog or you poke the bear enough, guess what'll happen? They will turn, right? They will turn. And people will watch what's happening on TV over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. They're going to hear those voices in their head. And guess what's going to happen now? If they've got stuff that's unresolved, or the media is telling them that they're racist again and again and again, guess what? They may just put on that racist cloak and say, fuck this, right? I mean, this is about conditioning and programming. This is exactly what this is about. So we're in a massive experiment right now. This is a big Skinner box. We're in a big Skinner box, and people need to understand that. The challenge with the big Skinner box is when things actually go live and it's no longer an experiment, or it's no longer a drill. And we started to see some of that happen about 3 weeks ago. Shit went live. And I bet you by the 4th of July, shit's going to go live again. And that's when the experiment, they ratchet up the voltage on the experiment. So it's unfortunate, but this is where we are. You want to go back and listen to what Ola and I talked about on Friday. You'll get some insight into this, and maybe some insight into, how we deal with it and how we handle it. But this is where we are with negative Sagittarius, the descendancy of Sag. And when we think about Sagittarius, it can also be really inclusive. When Sagittarius is on, man, it is so on and so inclusive. It's like a great vibe. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome, right? But when it's in its descendancy, it's not the same. And people are trying to find that, right? There are two signs that are most connected to religion and faith, and they're Pisces and they're Sagittarius. And the South Node is on a collision course with Neptune. Both the nodes are on a collision course with Neptune, right? With that T-square. And we're talking towards the end of the year, right around the election, when both of them come in and basically T-bone Neptune. That'll be interesting. Very interesting. So Sagittarius is a sign that's connected to faith. And if you have a Sagittarius rising, part of what you're here to do is you're here to foster faith in your life and in the life of others, right? Have faith, have confidence, go live your life, go big. That's Sag on the ascendant. Go big. And when you do it, it can be really great. It can be really, really great. And you're there to learn about this concept of faith, having faith in yourself, having your faith in a higher power, higher order, the Most High, right? It's a big part of Sag rising. But when we don't have that, when Sag is in its descendant, we are lacking faith. We're lacking faith, or the faith is harder to come by. And unfortunately, it's true. Now, I've talked a lot about the true node in Gemini, and there's some value there, okay? There's some value there in Gemini, but you have to figure it out. You have to be nimble. You have to be light on your feet. You have to play the role of the trickster, which is a really good role to play. I'm going to play a little of that this week. I'm going to be a little trickster on this week. You got to play it, because when you play it, it lightens things up, and it can actually help that kind of flagging Sagittarian energy, because you need to laugh. You got to laugh. You got to find humor in things, and you got to have fun. So just keep in mind that really for almost the next 2 years, this Sagittarian piece is going to be harder and harder to deal with in some ways. Well, it may get easier in the middle and maybe towards the end. But, when things hit, like the nodes are different. When the nodes move into from one sign to another, they're like, they go anaretic and they go like 28, 27, and shit, that energy is off, right? It is like, really crazy. It's crazy energy. It's unstable energy. And we see this, like whenever the nodes hit, man, those first degrees, 29, 28, 27, it's nuts. And we saw that. We saw that when all the stuff went down, just after March 25th. So as the nodes move, the energy will settle a little bit. It'll settle a little bit. And right now, it's in the Leo decan for Sagittarius. A lot of this is dramatic. And I'm going to talk about Robbie Williams. I saw a really interesting interview with Robbie Williams, and I've got his chart, and I'm going to show you a little bit. So I found somebody new on YouTube, and I think they're really good. So I'm going to show you their show, and I'm going to recommend her channel. I think it's a really good channel. And she did a 3-part interview with Robbie Williams, and I was quite surprised at what he had to say. I had to look at his chart and everything. So his ascendant is 29 Leo, which is just what got in my head. But anyway, we're in that Leo part. Everything's very dramatic. We're in the Leo decan of Sagittarius. So it's quite dramatic. And then by the time we get into January, February, we're moving into the Aries decan. Very different energy, super different energy. But intense, right? It's going to be intense. Like all these decans with Sagittarius are going to be intense for different reasons. Right now, Gemini is in the Aquarian decan. So what are we seeing? We're seeing this kind of Aquarian order. We're seeing this Aquarian disorder in conjunction with the duality of Gemini, black and white, right? Do you see that? Which is kind of unfortunately fueling this, this fake revolution. It's a fake revolution. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people that have like there are issues. We know there are issues. And we may not agree on the issues, but there are issues. Some people have an underlying sense that things are wrong and they don't care, and they don't care what it looks like. They just want to burn it up. And a lot of these people, which is interesting, and there's a really, God, hold on a second now. Let me just, Natalie from Australia, who I've done a reading for, and sometimes she's in chat. Natalie broke this thing down really, really well. Really, this person is brilliant, by the way. And she talked about how a lot of the Zoomers, the Gen Z, the Pluto and Sag kids, they really grew up with games. They're like, their head has to do with games. They got more game in their head than I'll ever have, even if I started playing games now to the rest of my life. So one of the interesting things about their psychology is that if they screw up or their world ends, they just hit reset. So this video game mentality, and by the way, some of the millennials have this too, but not as much as these kids. Because and they just keep hitting reset over and over and over again. So there's a reality bleed from the video world where it's like, well, fuck it, burn it all down and reset this shit, because that's what you do in a video game. They've been programmed. They've been totally programmed. So this is the Pluto and Sag kids. I thought it was a brilliant insight, by the way. Really, really brilliant insight. Okay. Let's see. What do we have here? Chaz. Let me talk about Chaz. Chaz, aka Chop. By the way, we've got lovely Linda Gordon. Vegan world equals no violence. Do you know that Antifa are mostly vegans? That's true. They're mostly vegans. They are very, very into vegan world. And guess what? Antifa are violent motherfuckers. They are violent. Okay? Violent. They're vegans. I'm sorry. They went off, Chaz, chopped. That was vegan world. And that was not your basic summer of love. Not at all. Not at all. I eat a lot of meat. I'm not a violent person. In fact, I'm less violent now that I eat a lot of meat. I have respect for the meat. So, Linda, I love you. We don't agree on food. I know you're a radical vegan, but let's just be clear. A lot of those people in Antifa, they're vegans. They're violent. So, please. That's a very Sagittarian kind of statement, by the way. This is a broad, overarching Sagittarian kind of statement. Anyway, I'll move on from that. Chop Chaz. I got to tell you this. So check this out. Apparently, the leaders of Chaz Chop got $20 million. $20 million. Yeah. $20 million to leave. And they're going to form some new committee. Like they're going to have a committee now. They have their own special committee with Jenny Durkin in the city of Seattle. Special committee. $20 million. I found this out from a guy who did a live stream in Seattle. He's some realtor in Seattle. He's doing live streams from Chaz Chop. And some guy walked up to him and told him the deal, that they were disassembling because they got $20 million, which is interesting because, check this out, the police are having 5% of their annual budget clipped away, which actually ends up being $20 million. So there's probably a lot of pre-planning that went into this idea that they were going to have this autonomous zone. Like, I think this was the outcome. I think this is where they wanted to go. I think they wanted to be able to float $20 million to these people and do it in a way that looked somewhat legitimate, right? This is what they're going to announce this at some point. They will announce this. This is what happened with Chop Chaz, which turned out to be a very violent, super violent experience. People were shaken down. People were mugged. They were chased down. All you got to do is go to Portland. You want to see violent people? You want to see Clockwork Orange? You want to see Clockwork Orange on tofu? Go to Portland, Oregon. Go hang out in Portland, Oregon for a little bit. Go share a little tempeh with the troops in Portland. All right, I got more stuff to talk. All right, so here's what I want to do. I want to play you this video, right? I'm going to play this video, and this is Robbie Williams. He's on this show with this woman named Anna Brees, and I just found her today, and she's got some pretty good. She's from England. I think she's near Wales. And she used to work for the BBC and the Guardian. She's got 3 kids, and a lot of her stuff is about truth and journalism. So she manages to get Robbie Williams on the show. And Robbie Williams is a guy who came up with an English group called Take That. And he was one of these kinds of, it was a boy band. And all those boy bands, by the way, have weird sex things going on. And Robbie, he's kind of talked about it. He's not proud of some of the stuff that went on prior to when he became famous. Like he had to go through a certain kind of detox. He's married now. He's got kids. So this guy's actually doing some really interesting things. And he's got some good records, actually. Good records. He's an Aquarian. I'm going to look at his chart. There's some interesting things with his chart. But I want you to pay attention to this interview, because there are some interesting things being talked about in terms of reality, and it's going to relate back to Robbie Williams's chart. Okay, so here we go. This is the interview with Anna Brees and hold on a second, and Robbie Williams, the singer who is now living in the United States in Los Angeles. Let me do that. Okay, what do we have here? Okay, so this is a 3-part interview. All 3 parts are worth watching. And I've got it queued up to a certain point in the interview. I'm going to play through to another part of the interview. Okay, here we go. All right, So Robbie Williams on the left, Anna Brees on the right, and away we go.
See something like this coming. You know, I've just said, you know, I felt something like this might come in. When you've got a global communication, we can, for the first time ever, we can all communicate. And why we've got these situations where no one even believes the videos that they're watching. You know, we look at that guy, that 75-year-old guy that was pushed over in a protest. And Trump, you alerted me to this last night when we had a chat. He's retweeted that may have been staged in some way, that guy genuinely wasn't necessarily genuinely injured. Well, we're looking at stuff and not even believing it.
Yeah,
and it's Trump. It's retweeting so-called conspiracy theories.
But the question was, did I feel it come in? Well, I have been an interested bystander, like I say, watching something that has felt fringe to me, that we mistakenly call conspiratorial. And the word itself, conspiratorial, has been hijacked to mean mental person. And I think that combined, we need to come up with a new word that doesn't have the kind of stigma that conspiratorial or conspiracy has. Have I felt something coming? Well, from standing on the bleachers looking on, I felt something's been coming for a very, very long time. But also at the same time, I have to question my own belief in, is something really coming? Well, something's really here. Something's happening right now. You know, is it the Chinese saying, may you live in interesting times? People say that in China to like have a dig at somebody. We're living in quite possibly the most interesting time on the planet. And right now, the washing machine of lies, disinformation, misunderstandings, half-truths is so pervasive that we are now in a place where our heads have stopped working. I can't believe that in the last 24 hours, you can be on the right side of history. And then when you wake up with your beliefs and your thoughts, you can be on the wrong side of history. And I'm not talking about the Black Lives Matter stuff. I'm just talking about absolutely everything. The sands are shifting so quickly. And what you think is the real version of events gets changed so quickly that there is no way of understanding or trusting even your own narrative and your own thoughts.
Well, last week it was Dominic Cummings over here, then it's George Floyd, and now it's something else. You're trusting your own thoughts. You said something in that Chris Thrall interview, and I've got a clip of it, where you said you're able to see yourself from outside. You know, are you just lost in your own echo chamber?
She said you can see, he said that he can see himself from the outside. He's an Aquarian. That's a very interesting thing for him to notice and say, because that is part of the Aquarian modus operandi, is a level of detachment. Okay, so let's keep going here.
Chamber in your own reality.
We're all lost in our own echo chamber and our own reality. But I have the benefit of being behind the veil that a lot of people are accusing of being up to some very nefarious stuff. Now, I share the same interests as those people. And I suppose that when I went on Chris Thrall's YouTube channel, I was basically saying we need to have some discernment. And I say we because I consider myself part of. That doesn't mean that I'm here to die on any hill or lead a battle or you know, be self-righteous with my indignation and lead a posse to 10 Downing Street and demand action and demand change. like I say, in the last 24 hours, the sands have changed so much. How could you possibly know what and what isn't truth? So, you know, I think
you saying that you are going to lead because you're an influencer and people trust you. They know you. You have a legacy. You haven't just arrived on the.
Okay, I got to back this up a little bit. Watch right here. Let me just go find it here. Hold on. I try to find the right piece. Let's try this. Let me see where we are. Hold on.
And Downing Street and demand action and demand change. Like I say, in the last 24 hours, the sands have changed so much. How could you possibly know what and what isn't truth? So, you know, I think
that you saying that you are going to lead.
Okay, look at the heart. He has a heart over his heart. Just remember that symbol when we look at his chart.
Because you're an influencer and people trust you. They know you. You have a legacy. You haven't just arrived on the scene.
Yeah, but here's the thing, you know, it's like this might be the last time I talk about it. You know, it's if there are the very, very dark things that people talk about happening, then they won't come for you right now. They'll come for me. You know, right now, if we go down the rabbit hole of this sort of the darkness that is supposedly pervasive and in control of the energy of the planet, you know, I'll be one of the first on the list. You know, you're getting there. Are you not scared?
Am I not scared?
Yeah. You know, you are.
Why do you think I wear? We talk about symbols. You know, why do I wear this? It's a symbol of sacrifice and selflessness. You know, I have to do this. I don't know. You're not in this world for very long. I don't know. I know that every single day, though, I have responsibility. I went into journalism because I wanted to make a difference. You know, it's an incredibly responsible position to have, that influence that you have working for, say, the BBC or ITV. You are communicating to the public what's really happening in the world. The information that they get, they base their decisions on, who they vote for. You know, I wanted to make a difference. I couldn't do that in the BBC. Trust levels have eroded. I did an interview with a YouGov data journalist called Conor Ibbotson back in 2003. Trust levels at the BBC. They asked the public, do you trust a BBC journalist to tell the truth? It was 80% said yes in 2003, 50% now. Why would I want to work for an organization that people don't trust?
Yeah, I totally get it. From my side, you know, here's my sort of like mental dilemma. There is someone on my shoulder going, you should say and do something, you know, you should say and do something. And then 18 months later, I'm glad I didn't, because the thing that I thought, I now no longer think. But I've also got this thing on my shoulder saying, you do have a voice, you can use your platform. And on the other shoulder, it's going, yeah, but you're going to get battered for having a voice, having a platform, or having an opinion. And also, you're not strong enough. And also, you're too sensitive. I can't take the anger and the aggression and the negativity that is attached to this kind of thing. I can't even take the negativity, and I'm too sensitive even when an album comes out and a song comes out, let alone talking about something that is so emotive and that is causing such fever around the world that it's actually becoming a religion now, where people would rather believe than know, you know. So I've got all of that going around, and then I just think, you know, shut up, just sing your songs.
You've got courage, Robbie. You have got courage. You said you're sensitive, and I know you said in that interview you're constantly looking for any comment that there's negative about you. You didn't say it quite like that. That validates the negative noise in my head. Also, you know, what comes of this and what comes of this interview. What's the end game? I've always thought that if I do say something and do something and become involved, then I should have an end game.
currently at the minute, I'm sat on my sofa twiddling my thumbs, wondering what the fuck's going on with the world. So, you know, I've kind of put the horse before the cart again by sticking my head above the parapet and going, hey, I think things are happening. You know,
in that interview, you don't talk to your wife about it, but if this consumes you, how can you not talk to her about it?
I do. You know, there are many things that I talk to my wife about, my wife about, and there are many things that I don't. You know, I don't have a secret life. It's just that I think the relationship between a man and a woman, in my case, with me and my wife, it's just what it is. You know, she has her thoughts and her beliefs and the places that she goes in her head that should be her dominion, that she should own those. That's the right of being a human being. You know, I go to these places on the internet to find out stuff about stuff. I think that if I said entertain myself, that would sound too trite and it wouldn't be true. But I'm constantly updating the data in my head to try and understand the narrative of what's happening. The reason I don't talk to my wife about it is because I'm sensitive, but she's way more sensitive than me. If we need to round the troops and posse up, she'll be my right-hand man or woman or whatever, you know. But for now, she doesn't need to know. When there is something that is so, oh my God, and your chin hits the floor, look at this, I will show her. But she's also an excellent barometer for me because I can run away with this religion too. You know, I can run away with thoughts and theories and beliefs. And I can then turn my computer and go, I'm looking at this. What do you think? She's smarter than me. So she can go A, B, and C. And I go, oh yeah, I'll carry on looking. But that's the reason I don't talk to my wife about it, is this is, it's not something that should darken her thoughts. You know, I've got
this. You feel in a better place. I mean, I look at photographs of me from 4 years ago and I look different. I've got a different look on my face, a different smile, until I got involved in seeing and hearing these things that, you know, I've been very involved in the situation here with, you know, paedophiles in Parliament, the Westminster paedophile ring, how the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, the Westminster hearings, no journalist was sitting there listening to these senior police officers testify on oath.
Okay, so I wanted to play you the Robbie Williams piece from an astrological perspective, and I really thought that he had some very interesting things to say. Because he was basically saying that things are moving so fast that it's hard for him to kind of grasp kind of this salient and maybe ultimate truth for the moment, right? And by the way, I really like that woman. I mean, that woman's a warrior. She's fierce. She's serious. She's clear. She's really, really clear. And I can see why he went on her show. Check out her channel. She's got a lot of good interviews. Her name is Anna Brees. So let's check out Robbie Williams' chart. And remember, he had that heart on his heart. Okay, now astrologically, there's some interesting things going on there. We'll look it up. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so this is the chart that they have for Robbie Williams, and it's a C-rated chart, so it's not a bad time. It's not an A-rated chart, but it's pretty good chart. It's got to be application window. Okay, so that's Robbie Williams's chart right here. So it was really, what I found was really interesting is the fact that, number one, his true node is right here at what is that, 20? That's like 29, right? Is that 29 Sag? So right now, let me see. I just got to zoom in on this sucker. Hold on a second. 26 Sag. 26 Sag. So that means the south node is on his true node. Now he's got that true node conjunct Sagittarius, the galactic center. That's a pretty powerful place for the true node. and he's got the south node on his true node, and so it's tempering, right? That south node is tempering his true node. So instead of saying, I've got the truth, I've got the truth, I've got the truth, he's having the tempering moment. Meanwhile, he's having the true node over here, the ascending plane of the moon, right on his south node, conjuncting Saturn. And so what he's doing is he's working on building a better mental construct around this stuff. I think he's handling this in a terrific way based on the nodes, right? Because there's a really interesting grand trine with the sun and Saturn. And look, he's got that Jupiter-Sun conjunction in Aquarius, very, very close conjunction. So he is an expansive figure, right? His energy is expansive, but when he like leans into his relationship, which is what he was talking about, right? Because that's where his sun is. So he's trying to sort out kind of the big picture in relation to his relationship or his partner, his wife. Not an easy thing to do, by the way, because he's got Sun square Moon and Sun square Mars. So he's working some stuff out in that dynamic around the relationship. But here's where I really wanted to pay attention to. So his ascendant is 29 Leo. And she was basically saying, come on, you're courageous. You're correct. And he's like saying, I may not be. I may not be. And so what do we see with Leo? We see the heart, right? We see the heart. You know, what is the lion looking for? The lion's looking for courage. He's looking for courage, which is synonymous with the heart. But one of the other guys, I think it's the Tin Woodsman, wanted that heart, right? And then the straw man wanted some brains, right? Isn't that how that thing worked? He wanted some brains. Well, courage is the heart. And at the 29th degree, like this is a guy that has to check in there at some point, whether it's with his kids or whether it's an astrological kind of moment in time. You know, maybe it's part of the Saturn transit and hits over here, and all of a sudden it's like it's on his sun, and it's like, you know, baby, I gotta jump into action, activate that Leo ascendant, right? And it's on Regulus. You know, it's on Regulus, which is a really interesting place. It's very close to Donald Trump's ascendant at 28 degrees. Apparently he referenced Trump. Now, if you go deeper into the interview, which I thought was quite interesting as well, is that he dropped out of school, I think at around 15 or 16. He could not read and he couldn't do math. So basically, Robbie Williams was admitting that he left school because he was illiterate. And he answered this ad for this group, Take That. And what got him through was charisma. And he said, he said, I may be short on intelligence, but I'm not short on charisma. And we see Mars on the midheaven. We see that Leo ascendant. So I think he's a very interesting character. And he's working out a lot. You know, you can almost see some of the learning disability stuff with Mercury and Pisces squaring Neptune down here. But even squaring Neptune in Sagittarius, you know, again, a sign that wants to have this kind of big picture view of the world and of the cosmos. Very interesting. And there's a lot more, but the things I really wanted to point out, and again, since we were talking about the nodes, was that south node is pretty much on his true node, right? So in transiting south node, which is tempering his belief system. He's not going all in. Can you see that? But he's also working on kind of some intellectual grounding with the true node conjunct Saturn in his chart right now, kind of rewiring how he's thinking. And then that heart on his heart during that interview with the Leo ascendant and having that discussion about courage. This is why I love mundane astrology. This is why I love mundane astrology, because you can actually see astrology in action. And there are people who will make a big case for sidereal astrology. Now, you could back his sign off by 15 degrees, and he'd still be a Leo rising, but you wouldn't get that anaretic degree at 29. Like, he's got to finish that Leo thing, right? That's the last piece. He's got to add the heart to the head. In Aquarius, even though it doesn't rule the head, it's a very heady sign. You can tell he's heady. And he's kind of brilliant, right? He has a genius about him with the Uranus trying Jupiter, Uranus trying this. He's different, right? This is a different cat. And he's trying to figure things out. But this is it. He's got to nail that 29th. And this is why I don't use whole signs, by the way, or equal houses. If you do that, you don't. Again, you can do it. It's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Heather, who is a great astrologer, she uses whole signs equal. I know I don't. And this is one of the reasons why I don't. You don't get that 29th degree. You don't get that anaretic kind of intensity on the ascendant there. And I just thought it was brilliant that he had his heart. He was literally wearing his heart, not on his sleeve, but right on his chest. Right on his chest. Now, I did relocate his chart, by the way, because now he's living in Los Angeles. So I thought, well, what's going on with this guy in Los Angeles? So I relocated his chart. And quite a different chart, actually, but in some ways better for him. And I'll show you why. So when I relocated his chart, he becomes 0 Taurus on the ascendant. Wow. That's grounded, right? You think that living in LA wouldn't be grounding, but he's living in LA and he's got that 0 Taurus. And look where Mars moves. Mars moves to the first house. So it's a little more martial there. So for the two houses, he's got Mars on the midheaven in the natal and Mars in the first. So these are cardinal houses. This is more of a Mars activation, and he's got Uranus in his first house, transiting Uranus. So that's changing things up in a very, very big way. And now what's interesting is the Sun and Jupiter, which are almost in an exact conjunction, are replaced by Uranus in the 7th house. And having Uranus on the 7th house is unusual, right? You would have theoretically an unusual relationship, and he married an actress who is Turkish. I think she's an American-born Turkish actress. She's very different looking, by the way. So yeah, and they have a different kind of relationship, right? Like this guy's obviously trying to morph himself into a truth warrior, and she's probably not quite there yet. And he's being sensitive around the whole thing. But here we go, Sun, Jupiter, 11th house. He's got to communicate. So from his new position in Los Angeles, what is he doing? He's doing social media, right? And this is kind of a new thing for him. Kind of a new thing. Like he just showed up, started to talk on this one guy's show because he saw something that the guy said on Twitter. And then she saw his interview. I'd love to interview the guy. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a chance to interview him. Never know. But it's an interesting chart, and the relocation is fascinating, especially up here. The sensitivity with that moon in Scorpio goes right into his 7th house. So, of course, he's going to be very sensitive about his partner there in Los Angeles, right? It's I like this chart. I like this relocated chart because he's also gone through major transformation with Pluto moving across his ascendants. Midheaven, Saturn. So now he's going to have Saturn right here at the end of the year. Saturn, Jupiter could be a very interesting time for him career-wise. You might see maybe a different version of Robbie Williams. You may say, who knows? Maybe it's the musical version, or maybe there's another side to him because Uranus, will play that game. Well, it'll flip the script, right? We'll flip the script. Anyway, it was an interview that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the presenter. I've subscribed to her channel. She's got some other really good interviews. You may want to subscribe as well. And I totally support Robbie Williams and his desire to sort things out and in his own mind make a difference. Keep going. You're doing a great job. But you could tell, though, I could tell that he knows shit. He knows shit, and he knows stuff from his own personal experience. like, I think he knows the really seedy, seamy underbelly of the music industry, what goes on in the music industry, and a lot of those players. I think he knows that stuff, and I wonder if he like wrestles with that a little bit. That's my sense, is that he thinks that he's not going to tell people. Maybe not now, because he's even said it. I have the benefit of being behind the veil. That's exactly what he's talking about. Exactly what he's talking about. All right, what's going on, Chatlandia? Let me chime in with you guys. Chatroom, let's invade Phoenix Farm, October. No mass. Yeah, man, we're going to work on that. Let's see what we got here. Leo is protecting his family. Yes, I would agree with it. His kids. Really, his kids. Oh, my God. His wife looks very ego and checked out. Oh, we got a breakdown. Of Robbie's wife. He's going to have Saturn. He's going to have Saturn going through his 7th house. All right. I got a story. It wouldn't be a broadcast without a story. And it involves a well-known personality whose show that I've been on numerous times, and was being, I'll just say it was Regina. You guys know that. The first time I met Regina, we sat down, and it was at a breakfast place in Boulder, because I was going to go to Gaia to go do this interview with her, and she wanted to learn about me. It was like the first time I ever met Regina. So we're sitting down, and we're talking. We're having a great connection. I'm like, man, I really like this person. We're clicking. I know we're having a good interview with her. So I asked her, so what's your rising sign? What's your rising sign, sun sign? She goes, I'm a Scorpio rising. I'm a Scorpio with a Taurus rising. So I knew what was going on. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, when's your birthday? Blah, 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 blah. And what's your degree? I think she might have known her degree. I'm not. But I'm like, oh, okay. So Saturn is approaching your descendant. So what's that mean? I said, well, it means you have to like reinvest or rewire, remake your relationship. Like if you're in a relationship, you've got to renegotiate the contract when Saturn hits the descendant. That's part of what Saturn does there. So if you're in a relationship, an existing relationship, that's what happens. And if you can't do that or don't do that, then you've got to figure something else out. And I said, I think you've got some work ahead of you. And then right when I said that, I swear to God, and I'm not saying anything that's going to broach any confidence. At that time, her husband walks in. He walks in and it's like, oh, hey, Robert, here's my husband. I'm like, oh, and it's not Zeus, by the way. Okay. It's not Zeus. I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, shake his hand and everything. So we go off, do the interview. And I don't know how long was after that, but, done. Over. You know why? Because they couldn't come to an agreement. And it's fine. These things happen. You don't come to an agreement, and that's the way it is. And now she has Zeus in her life, and great big happy ending, right? Loves the guy, he loves her, great guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So that's what we're talking about when Saturn hits the descendant. If you're in a relationship, Saturn hits your descendant, you got some things that you got to work out. You got to come to an agreement. And if you can, then that relationship will be buttressed by Saturn, and you can build on it, right? If you can't, then guess what? Saturn will take it away. That's what Saturn does. If you're not in a relationship and you have Saturn on your descendant, lucky you. It's a time where you can begin to get serious about relationships. And if you've got planets in there, Saturn's going to hit them. You get to rewire whatever that planet is and all the angular relationships. So Robbie's going to have that Saturn conjuncting his descendants in 2.5 years. So there you go. All right. What else do we have in Chatlandia? Let's see. Saturn is approaching my DC. Rob and I, you were reading. We should talk about that. Reach out to me, okay? Let's make it happen. Weird. Saturn's going back over my descendant this week. Okay. So it's retrograding back over your descendant. All right. So I would look at that if you're single, right? You want a relationship, and Saturn's going back over your descendant. Maybe there are some things that you need to clean up. I mean, if that's what you're looking, or maybe just say, look, I'm not ready right now. I'm not ready right now. I want to, maybe go back a few degrees because it's going over your descendant, then it's going to retreat slightly back into your 6th house, which has to do with things like health and work. And maybe you want to just, just work on that stuff. Don't be in a hurry. You don't want to rush things with Saturn. You don't want to rush things with Saturn. You want to take your time. But when the time is right, then you need to move with it. Okay. You need to move with it. And then you need to build some structure and say, this is it. Okay. We're doing this now. Okay. Saturn return here. I like the second Saturn return. My first one, I made a big pile of steaming poo out of my first Saturn return. Trust me. I basically just did everything I could wrong during my first Saturn return. Not something that I would recommend. There are three potentials. 3 potentials for your first Saturn return. Here they are. Potential number 1 is you go with Saturn and you do the Saturn thing that's right in front of you, right? So if it's, look, we're living in a bit of a different universe now, okay? But if it's like, standing up and getting a job and providing and building structure during your Saturn return, that's what you do. That's what you do. You go with it. You build. And I've seen people do this. This is what Heather did. I worked with her on Saturn return, and man, she did it. She aced her Saturn return, and look what she's doing now, right? The other version, but she did it in a different way. And I'll tell you that this is the second option. The second option is that if you don't do it sort of like, let's call it the corporate way or the Saturn way, you're going to do it your own way. You better damn well be really good at it and take full responsibility. Full responsibility, because that's the name of the game with Saturn. So if you say, you know what, here's the prescribed Saturn script, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to do it my own way. If you still are able to understand the lessons of Saturn, to be disciplined, to be structured, to put time into something, to work on something that will be your thing for the next 30 years, theoretically now, right? Doesn't matter. You can do it your way. You can Frank Sinatra the thing. There are just certain things that you've got to do. The third way that you do the Saturn return is you do none of those, and you completely let it become this nightmare, which is what I did. And I eventually recovered from it. But, I've taken a very circuitous and labyrinthian path in order to kind of reclaim myself and be on the path of Saturn. Because, man, when I blew up Saturn, I went straight to Uranus. And I lived, for me, the 80s were so Uranian. I said, fuck Saturn. I'm doing this Uranian thing. I'll get to Saturn. I got to hold off for a while. I'll get there. But I got here. Here it is. It's all good. All right. Here we go. Where else do I want to go? Okay. Okay. So this is interesting now. Another story time. So I think it was last week I talked about Findhorn, and it's come up a little bit. So let's see who we had. Joseph. Joseph said that Jan Irvin said that Findhorn was depraved. I forget the word that he used, but it was this thing. It was like really bad. I forget what Joseph said. I wish he was here. And so I thought about that comment, and I thought about Jan Irvin's a trip. He's a total trip. I'm not sure what I think about Jan Irvin, by the way. But I thought about it. I'm like, well, what isn't? Like our life, we live with things that are just, I don't know, like you listen to the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin, or you drink beer, you smoke. I mean, there's so many things about life in general, and I get it. There's certain things that are more, how do we say it? I don't use the word depraved. Forget the word he used, but there's certain things that are just like more of that nature, right? They just are. Like having an adrenochrome Bloody Mary versus just a regular vodka Bloody Mary. Those are two distinctly different forms of depravity, neither of which I would partake in at this time in my life. Okay. So let's be clear about that. Now, my experience with Findhorn was that it kind of blew my mind. Not kind of, it did. And eventually, again, but we go through these phases. We transition out of these phases. Anyway, I talked about some people that touched my life with when I was there at Findhorn. And one of them was Dorothy McLean. So I just did a little Google thing on Dorothy, and she just died. She died on March 20th. And of the three Findhorn people, she was my favorite of the three. Dorothy McLean lived to be 100 years old. 100 years old. Guess what sign Dorothy is? Guess one. Chatlandia, what sign do you think Dorothy? Don't look it up. Don't go Wikipedia her. What sign do you think she is? She's a Capricorn. Capricorn. Right? Look, if you want to drink, I don't have any problem with drinking. You want to drink, just go ahead and drink. There are times I really, really like a nice cold beer. Really would. There are times I'd love to have me a little gin and tonic. But I tell you what it does to me now. It just brings my vibration down. I'm just not humming. I just don't hum at a certain level. And I want to hum, right? I want to hum at a certain level. I don't want to be kind of, in the pits. Capricorn. Right, Joe? You got it. Capricorn is longevity. I'm going to show you Dorothy's chart. All right, so I'm going to show you. Okay, so again, I don't know the time she was born, so I cast a sunrise chart, which is what I do for people. But this is interesting. I think this is interesting. All right. So what I did is Findhorn started on November 17th, 1962. Okay. That's the official start date of Findhorn. And I threw an 8 a.m. sunrise chart. That's when they filed like their foundation papers or whatever. They were still living in a caravan. And so Dorothy comes a year later in 1963, but I used the start date of Findhorn and I put it up against her chart. It's really fascinating. Let me show you the impact of transits here. I think it's kind of a stunning display of a transit, or looking at transits. From using the chart. It's not a transit chart. It's a synastry chart. It says this is a stunning, I think, display of synastry, which can happen between not just two people, but a person in a corporation, a person in a country. There's a lot of things we can do with synastry. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Here we go. So, all right, Dorothy's in the center, and we can see that that's her sun right there. Let's blow it up just a little bit. How about a little bit more for me? There we go. That works. Okay, so here's her sun. It's at 10, 15, was it 15 Capricorn? Okay. All right, so check this out, right? Let me go back. Let's back it off a little bit. All right. So she's in the center. Now, she has her true node. How about this? She's got her true node at what is that? It's like 20. Her true node is a 23 Scorp, and Findhorn's sun is at 24 Scorp. So do you see how this works? Like, so the inception of this community was connected to her purpose right there, right? So when we get into the true node, what are we trying to do? We're trying to align ourselves in the most elegant way possible so that we can unfold with the least amount of resistance. This is the nature of the true node. And she has Vesta conjunct her true node. And I've been getting into these asteroids more. And the way that I work with Vesta is I believe Vesta is like the eternal flame. It is the thing that you bring into this lifetime that can be a way shower for you and others, right? So her purpose at 23 degrees Scorpio was connected also to Vesta, to be a guiding light in some ways with other folks. Now, look, Dorothy may have been up to the fucking occult, to her third eye, right? She may have, did the foxtrot with Theosophy. By the way, she and David Spangler share the same birthday, January 7th. Wrap your head around that. But I experienced her as a very nice person, a very kind person. I didn't experience her as anybody diabolical. She was down to earth, had a great sense of humor. And to this day, I still love her communication with the devas, right? The overlighting nature spirits. They're great. You can read these things. And they're very scorpionic in a lot of ways. Very, very scorpionic. Moving into the kind of the penetrating behind sort of the material of life, right? And so Findhorn gave her this kind of fertile ground. Do you see that? It wasn't just the fact that she had this true node and this Vesta, but look what's around all of that. The sun and Mercury and Venus and Neptune. Holy smokes, right? That's such a fertile ground. And Scorpio is a very, very psychic sign. Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, the water signs tend to be very empathic, very intuitive, very psychic. The air signs are psychic too, but in a different way. Look at that. It's a setup, a total setup, right? All right. What else do we have? Look at this. Pluto conjunct Saturn. Now, that was going on anyway, right? So she was having a Pluto-Saturn conjunction in her chart. Doesn't matter. Like, I'm much more interested in this right here. But let's just play this out. Let's say Findhorn was created a year earlier or 2 years earlier. Pluto's not going to be directly on her Saturn. What about 2 years later? Pluto's not going to be on her Saturn. No, it's right on her Saturn. So this purpose, right? Saturn and Virgo that's what she's going to be here to ground, surface, right? Pluto comes right in relationship with the rest of Findhorn, transforms it. Boom, right there. Right there. And again, she has like a small conglomerate of planets. She's got all these planets. Here's Vesta playing with Pluto, right? Here's Ceres. Here's Uranus. Here's Juno. And to me, Virgo is like the natural world. To me, Virgo is pretty Davic in a lot of ways because it moves between worlds. It moves between the natural world and the elemental world. It's the nature of Virgo. So she's loaded up here, right? Look at this. All these planets here, all these planets here, boom. And those are just 2 planets, right? Now, Findhorn has Mars on the, and by the way, it's a very creative community. They're really into, at least they were. I don't know what the place is like now. And I would really have no desire to go there, by the way, right now. Like that was a point in time in my life. But look, Mars, Jupiter conjunction, a way for her to access her creativity, to play, to have fun. And look at what we got here. We got a moon conjunction. Look at that. Look at that. Findhorn's moon, right on her moon. We got the true node there on the day that Findhorn was founded, conjunct the moon. So now she's got her true node conjunct the sun, her moon conjunct Findhorn's true node. No wonder she had a long-standing relationship with that place. And in fact, when she was 90, where did she go? She went back and she retired. She went back to this place where it all started, where the two moons conjuncted. Anyway, I just wanted to show this to you guys as a really interesting, like, example of what I would call a life-changing synastry. And the synastry not only was the people, not only was it the place, but it was the astrological charter that she signed up for when she went to that community. And it could have been any place, right? She could have gone to work for, I don't know, Boeing or whatever, right? May not have had the same outcome, but it did, and it was there, that she was able to tap in to the magic of this elemental realm. Anyway, Dorothy, you were great. I enjoyed getting to know you briefly, and I'm sure you're having great conversations on the other side. And she passed away, by the way. Guess what? She passed away right on the spring equinox. You know, this is one of the most magical times of the year, and that's when she left. The age of 100. Pretty cool, right? I think it's cool. That's me. There we go. Findhorn is a community, Ursulia, in Scotland. Look it up. Some interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I wonder if Findhorn is connected to Tavistock. Who knows? Probably. You know, what the fuck isn't connected to Tavistock, though? Right? Look, Peter Caddy worked for the RAF. So Peter had military roots. He had military roots for sure. I'll tell you what Findhorn was connected to. Findhorn was definitely connected to the Lucis Trust. That part I know because of David Spangler. And David Spangler and what's her name? Myrtle Glines, who I think was David's mentor, maybe his handler a bit. But they're definitely connecting to the Lucis Trust. I mean, these are people that come out of the theosophical tradition. Okay. So you have to wrap your head around that. So you have to wonder, well, what were the Theosophists part of Tavistock and MI6? Possibly. Why not? I mean, you know, between those guys and between Langley and all these other kind of centers of reality creation, you dig deep enough, you'll find the tendrils go just about everywhere and back to the same places. Okay. You know, I'll be honest with you, there's very little in this world that's original or pure. You know, that's why you want to kill all your heroes, by the way. All those people you looked up to in the media, you want to get rid of them. Right? I met Karen Caddy. Oh, interesting. Everything is 33. I know, right? It's all 33. Scotland Freemason. Yeah, there you go. But Peter wasn't a Freemason. He's a Rosicrucian. Close. I met Peter too. Peter suffered a very, very tragic end. Holy shit. I tell you, I saw the dark side of a lot of that stuff. I did. I saw a lot of the dark side. And I'm not going to get into it. I could tell you a story, but I'm not going to. Peter died tragically in a car accident in Germany. And it did not end well. Well, at least it was fast. Eileen, she passed away. I think about a year or two after Peter did. But Peter had, man, on the Autobahn. All right. Here we go. Where are we now? Let's take a look at Trump real fast because I said I'd look at Trump. Let's check in on the Donald here. Let's see where the Donald's at astrologically. So he is, I still think he's dealing with the after effects of that eclipse, which was here, right? He just had that lunar eclipse. And that's when Bolton came out with his book. And guess what sign Bolton is? Sagittarius, of course. Like Trump should avoid Sagittarians at all cost. All cost. Sagittarius, kryptonites for Donald. Now, I think he hired Bolton because Sheldon Adelson probably wanted him to. He's a good old Ziocon. Sheldon Adelson, had Trump open that embassy in in Jerusalem, right? By the way, my thought is that somehow Trump loses, like if that reality, if that timeline manifests, he'll move to Israel. That's what I think. He'll wind up going to Israel. That's my sense. He'll leave the United States. He'll go to Israel. He'll go live on the street named after him. All right, so let's see where he's at. Okay, so I talk about these 30-year cycles with Saturn, and they're very important. 14, 44, and 74. 14, you become an adolescent punk that doesn't know shit, thinks they know everything, boy or girl, and then separate out from your family. That's the Saturn opposition. That's the first one. At 44, you usually hit your peak and you're ready to do something else. You're ready to step out, say, look, I'm going to do something else. You have to reinvent yourself with these Saturn cycles. You're moving away from this other structure, right, which is over here. At 74, then you've got to go through the same, you got to go through something very, very similar, right? You got to flip the script. And guess what? He's been in that flip the script mode going all the way back to December of last year. So he cannot be the same president. He can't be the same president. He can't roll out the same bravado, right? He can't do it. Cannot do it. That was 4 years ago. That was we've gone through an entire Saturn span, and not an easy one. Not an easy one for Trump. Because when he got elected, Saturn was still in the sign of Sagittarius. And it was down here. It was in the opposition with his sun. It was on his moon, right? Very intense time to become president of the United States, by the way. And then he had the Saturn run through the fifth house. And he's had issues with his kids. He's had issues with Don Jr., bagging big game, issues with his son-in-law, some issues with Ivanka. He's also had issues with authority, all these entrenched Capricornian figures. Like Saturn through the fifth house is no fun. He's also had Pluto going through there. Like these are intense, life-changing transits. And even now, Pluto in opposition with Venus, that's a heavy-duty freaking opposition. Heavy, right? Heavy. Because you have to really transform your alliances. These are alliances in his 11th house. The 11th house is groups and organizations. And when we get a Venus-Saturn conjunction, right, these are the people that you do deals with. These are the people that you have long-time relationships with. And the Pluto opposition on the other side is banging on this hard. And it's forcing him. This is outside, right? It's coming from the outside. This is intense energy he's been going through. Very intense energy. And of course, Capricorn represents things like government and business. And the Pluto opposition to his Venus, okay, this is interesting. Now, he's not gone through this in this lifetime before, but this way. But he's gone through, 2 bankruptcies? He's lost a bunch of money. Wilbur Ross bailed him out. The Rothschilds bailed him out. But when you're president of the United States, okay, and you have a Pluto opposition to Venus, which deals with things like assets, which deals with things like, some degree of money, possessions, property, cancer connected to America. So this economic downturn is really a direct assault in a lot of ways on his natal Venus-Saturn conjunction. Wrap your head around that. Wrap your head around that. In a private life, let's say Donald Trump as Donald Trump, who knows? Maybe he loses his fortune or goes bankrupt the third time. But Donald Trump as president, the guy who's theoretically in charge, boom. That is hitting him and it's hitting the rest of us. But remember, it's coming from opposition. Opposition. If it was a conjunction, we'd be having a very, very different conversation. So here's where the micro meets the macro, where the individual meets the whole. So we're seeing something get played out in his chart that is having a massive effect on the rest of our lives. Massive. Now, in a normal situation, again, with the true node up here, getting close to his sun, and by election time, it's going to be right there on his true node. Of his nodal return. Now, I would think that that would be in a very powerful place to, sort of like, this is it. He's going to be at his peak. He'll be at his peak then. But guess what's going to happen? The south node is going to be down here. It's going to be on his moon, but everything's going to be aligned. Okay. So whatever happens to Donald Trump with the election, it really is in a lot of ways like the denouement of his life. And if he remains in the White House in Washington, D.C., I think he will continue to be president up until that node moves into Taurus. And we're in the 10th, like the final degrees of Taurus here. So what are we talking about? 20, where are we at? 2022. 2022. That's about that halfway mark. Remember I said that I think he'd be like, if I think he gets elected, I use it for 2 years. Because when that true node hits his midheaven, that's a big deal, especially conjunct fixed star algol. And we've talked about this before. Because right around that same time, Uranus is going to be encroaching on his midheaven as well. So these two forces, one that brings change, and the other which brings the absolute peak of where he is on the midheaven. And the third factor, of course, is this star that represents decapitation. I don't, do the math around that. I would say I would give him right now, even though Jay Widener said the families have voted and he's not going in, I'd still give Trump about a 70 to 75% chance of winning, even with that. But then after that, it's like, I don't see him finishing the presidency. But he's got to be somebody different now. He has got to, he's a Gemini on freaking, jet fuel. Okay. He's going to have to make a pivot. He's got almost that same ascendant, right, as Robbie Williams. Look at that. Maybe he should invite Robbie Williams to the White House. Maybe he should hire Robbie Williams as his director of communication or something. They might actually work out pretty well together. As Aquarian stuff. Anyway, he's got to reinvent himself. He's got to be a different Trump. And it's his Saturn. That Saturn is moving into Aquarius, right? Now, it's still going to be in Capricorn by the time the election rolls around. And it's still going to be an opposition with his Venus and opposition with his natal Saturn. Like, it's a heavy time. It's a heavy time for the dude. Oh, and by the way, he's got Mars going through his 8th house. With some of these squares, very cautious with a Mars 8th house transit. Very, very cautious. I think it's better than a 12th house transit, by the way. I think it's better. Maybe he'll find his fighting spirit. The one thing that I would be concerned about is the conjunction with Chiron in the 8th house for him. And where's Chiron? 9 degrees right now? So what are we talking about? About 3 weeks out. 2 weeks out. 2 weeks out from now. Mars Chiron conjunction, his 9th house. Interesting. Say a prayer for the man. Seriously. Say a prayer for the man and prayer for the country. He's got to get through this Mars 8th house transit. And that's going to go all the way up through the election, by the way. I think this is his gauntlet. I think this Mars transit is his gauntlet. And if he can get through this, he's going to have Mars in the 9th house. Much better position for Mars. Much, much better position. Hidden enemies right here, 6 to the 7th. And that's where it's been. But I feel like he's going to have to make a pivot. He's got to retain something that is fundamentally Trump. He's got to retain something that's fundamentally Trump. but he's also got to do something different. This is the nature of the Saturn opposition. It's going to be interesting to see how he makes the pivot and rebrands himself in a very, very short period of time with a lot of intensity. A lot of intensity. Okay. Melania's got about 5 planets in Taurus. So she would show up in his 9th house, which makes sense because she's from another country, doesn't it? And like I said, he marries women from other countries. Moon, Sagittarius, 4th house. Got that? All right. So we're what, 2 hours and 16 minutes in? Okay, I'm going to wrap it up a little bit here. I got 2 more things I want to share for you. One is my prediction is that the next really big thing that we're going to go through is we are going to go, the next thing that's going to hit us, I'm telling you right now, is the alien shit. So UFOs, disclosure, aliens, it's coming. It's coming. I can smell it in the wind. You can start to read the tea leaves. They're already leaving clues, okay? That's coming. I've seen 2 reports on Tucker Carlson, one with Tucker and one on Friday night with this other guy. They both talked about UFOs, right? Okay. So how is this going to get shaken out? This is going to be very interesting kind of like dynamic, all right? Because I don't think, first of all, do I think that there's things out there? I do, actually. I do. I also think that I've seen UFOs, right? I don't know who was, I've seen them. I've seen multiples. I do know that we have very advanced things that are UFO-like, okay? We do. I also believe that there are these crypto-terrestrials and that they're like inside the freaking planet. And they live in there. And they may have their own kind of like modes of transportation. I also think that there are these interdimensional entities. I believe in all these things. I believe all of them to be possible and true. Okay? Because I believe every one of those is a distinct possibility. So why would I limit, putting any of that in one bucket or one box? Right? And if that's the case, I can say, well, it may be them, but it may not be. It could be just another government psychological operation, the false flag, mother of all false flags, Project Bluebeam, right? So how will this thing play out? I think there are two scenarios. 2 scenarios. One scenario is a fake war. And I know I'm like sounding really far out there, right? A fake war. We have a fake war. We stage a war. And it's like the movie Independence Day. I swear to God, it's going to be Independence Day. Brings the world together. And I guarantee you that there will be a Will Smith-like character who will be a hero. Just like the movie. Just like the movie. And then that character, that Will Smith-like character as in the role of the hero will take on some kind of mythical status. Like a major, like iconic figure for generations to come. But it won't be real. It won't be a real thing. And it could go either 2, but that's the winning side. That's the winning version. So what'll happen is that they get everybody together. Everybody agrees. Oh, it was great. We're all one planet now. And then they have this alien technology that they get. And then the alien technology is really something that they already have. Right? Because what would happen if they brought out like the really cool shit right now? Hey, guess what? All that like industrial age stuff, look, it's just over, okay? It's just, it would be great if they could just do that. I mean, why couldn't they just be fair and square with us? This is really the thing that blows my mind. Why can't they just say, hey, look, okay, we blew it. We spent all that money. The Federal Reserve stuff, it's over. The system is broken. It's just broken, okay? We fucked up. We thought we could just do it for a while, as long as we could. And guess what? We got this new stuff. It's really great, all right? We just had to play it out. I'm sorry. We had to get rich. but now we're going to give back to you. Right? We all sat around at one point and said, okay, it's time. Let's give back. Because we have plenty of money. We have more money we know what to do with. We have everything we want. Now we're going to give something back to you. Here's this wonderful technology. Cold fusion, whatever. Right? It's like, here it is. They could do that if they wanted to. Just move us into that direction. Just do it, right? Of course, they don't want to, because their goal is to extract as much, spiritual essence out of us as they freaking can along the way. But even if they did that, they say, look, the only thing is, for us to like turn the switch on here with all this stuff, it's got to tell you, we got to be one world. We're going to break this country stuff down. Oh, and there's this thing called the chip. You get to access all this stuff and play with it and everything. We just need you to there's this thing. Yeah, you understand. Right, you get it. And people could then make a choice. Say, oh, yeah, sure. I'll take the chip, whatever. And then you say, no, I don't want to take the chip. Then you lose out on all the really cool shit, right? I mean, you let people make a choice. But that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Well, why couldn't they do that, though? They don't want to. Of course they don't want to. I'm not being naive. I'm just being, wouldn't that be a cool scenario? But here's the scenario. So that all of a sudden now the aliens are defeated, and then they have all this great shit that they've had for years and years and years, but they claim it's the alien stuff. And that's when they bust out the fourth industrial revolution. And of course the chip will be a part of that too, right? So that's one version. Another version is that the aliens are benevolent. There's that version. And then we get the shit anyway, right? But then we're still going to have to jump through their hoops. So I think the fourth industrial revolution is tied to the alien thing. That's what I think. And I think it's coming. And it's coming fast. So I wanted to look at the very first alien sighting, theoretically speaking, in here in the United States. So I actually have a chart for that. All right, here it is. Okay. All right, so the very first UFO sighting took place in Chehalis, Washington. There's that state of Washington. Coming back again. So it took place in 1947. 1947. June 24th, 1947. And it was a guy by the name of Kenneth Arnold. And he was flying a plane. That's right around the time, too. 3:05 p.m. First theoretical known sighting. What's really interesting about this chart is look at the day, June 24th. That's like one day before June 25th. June 25th being the George Floyd event in Minnesota. It's kind of interesting that the days are very close together there, right? And at that time, we have all these planets in guess what sign? Gemini, right? Gemini. Now, it could be a fake. The whole Kenneth Arnold thing could just be a complete fake. There were 9 shiny, unidentified flying objects. Now, the 8th house is a house of secrets. It is the house of secrets. And look what we got here. The old true node right there. Sitting right on pretty much Uranus. Not quite there, but close. Very close. 22 degrees. So if we scale this out, that would be right around the election. How about that? How about that? Interesting. And that Uranus, oh boy, so this is right around Trump's birthday. Check this out. So Trump was born in 1947, right? 1947. And just get out of here. Get out of here. A few weeks before that. This is basically, this is Trump's, no, it's not. I'm sorry, different. This is different. This is Mars is in Taurus. This is not Trump. Trump has Mars in Leo. But a lot of the planets are similar, right? Uranus. His Venus is in Cancer. Anyway, this is the true note. It's going through the House of Secrets. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. So if we look at the true node here related to this very same event, it's going to start to light up all these planets around the very first UFO sighting back in 1947. Sorry, my bad. The Floyd event was May 25th, not June 25th. I apologize. I corrected that in my head. And I know you probably have already corrected me, even though I can't see it. So it's a month, almost a month after. My apologies. My apologies. All right. So here we go. There's that true node, 8th house. Open it up. Disclosure. You know, it's got that crazy Uranian energy too, right? Uranus into this, what's it, trining? It's got a biquincy. Uranus is a biquintile with Jupiter. Oh, that's interesting. That is not quite mutual reception. We have Jupiter in Scorpio, and all the bevy of these Gemini planets are in Scorpio's house there. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So the other thing too is that this event will also go through that Saturn cycle, which will be next year when Saturn moves into the sign of Aquarius and opposing Saturn that's associated with that event. And Mercury's going retrograde, right? So it was in Mercury retrograde. Mercury was in Cancer during this sighting, and it's going retrograde now. It's going all the way back here, right in the cusp of the 9th and the 8th house chart. So I would use this chart as sort of the keystone event for the first sighting, first modern sighting in the United States. Whether you believe it's real or not, whether it's been debunked or not, this is that theoretical sighting. And out of this, again, comes all this interesting information. J. Allen Hynek and Project Blue Book and all that stuff. Very 8th house related. So I think that's where we're going. I think we're going to UFO disclosure land. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? Because it's coming. It's coming. Would you be surprised for 2020? Why are the families still in charge of who becomes president? Good question, because they've been around thousands of years. That's why, probably. That's my theory, that they've been around thousands of years. And they've always sort of been in charge of how things unfold on a certain level, not on an ultimate level. All right, I got a little humor for you guys, and I'm going to head on out of here. Okay? I got a little humor, and I'm going to head on out of here. Thank you for showing up tonight, by the way. Appreciate you. And I'll be back tomorrow with a very good edition of 50. You don't want to miss 50 Minutes of Flame tomorrow. But I got a little humor, and by the way, a little psychological insight about people and following orders. So I'm going to say goodnight now, right? And if you want to support this channel, you can do so. I'll put a link to that Robbie Williams interview that you can grab and pass around. It's a great interview, by the way. And I'll put a link there. If you want to support the show, you can do that. I'm still digging out of my hole with readings. If you want to get a reading, it's a really great time. I had a talk with a client today who haven't done a reading, a really interesting person. And they were at my talk at the Austin Astrological Society back in January. And that's when I said we were going to run out of time. I wrote the word time on the blackboard and I circled it. And I did a dissertation on time and I said, we're running out of time. So there's going to be a point in time where you're not going to be able to do the same things, or you're going to maybe be in the same place and have to be in the same place. So she was there, and she was like, okay, well, she connected with that. She connected with another time that I was there. But we were talking about readings, and I do think like now it's getting really hard in some ways to predict the social model with astrology. It's not impossible. Just let me say that. It's getting harder. You have to really kind of understand what you're doing. But that said, I think it's a really good time for the individual. I think it's a really good time for the inner sky in a person's life, regardless of whether you're staying at home, whether you're looking for a job or looking for a place to move. And by the way, a lot of people are getting relocation readings, which should not surprise anyone. But it's still a very good time to be able to explore those channels, no matter who you are, what you're doing. It's all still quite valid very valid. All right. So that said, I'm going to play you something, and it has to do with following orders, compliance. Get ready. You're going to dig this. I'll even put this in the show page. All right. So without further ado, let me share it with you. Here we go. Watch this. Oh, come on now. Play it out. Oh, I have to reload this thing. Don't go away. It's worth the wait.
What's up, guys? So I just left Walmart. See it behind me? So I'm in a county where the state just passed their, I don't know what it is, the county commissioner made a Hitler-type ruling that just says, I decided everybody has to wear a mask if they go inside of a store. So I purposely wore this mask today. You can see my mouth through it. You can see me talking, right? And it just goes to prove that it's not about safety. Because if I sneeze, if I cough, if I talk, if I spit, anything I do is going to come right through this mask, obviously, because this isn't a mask designed to be used in hospitals or anything. This is I think it's for dirt biking, so you don't bust up your face. But the point is nobody looked twice at this mask. Nobody gave me any shit, and nobody ever will give me any shit, because it's not about safety. What it is, it's just about compliance, right? I complied. I was a good little sheep. I had a covering on my face that doesn't protect anybody from anything, and not one person said a word. Not one store employee, not one other person in the store, not even a security guard that happens to be standing watching this particular Walmart. They all looked at it. They looked at it like, oh, that's interesting. And not one person said a word. So 2 experiences today. Number one, I went on to a public transportation, and I asked them to arrest me and drag me off if they had to. I said, I'm willing to do that. They said, nah, it's okay. You don't need to wear a mask. Then I went into a private business where it's a mandate by some random person who wasn't elected, and it wasn't a law. And I wore a mask that is obviously not going to protect anybody from anything. If I got a virus, dude, it's coming right through this mask and right into you. Nobody cared. So 2 instances today, I totally debunked the whole point of wearing this damn mask, because it's not about safety. It's 100% about compliance. And if we all start doing this stuff, and we all start pointing it out, and we all start making videos, then they're going to knock it off. Because if we don't knock it off, if we don't get them to knock it off, then it's over for us. What's the next thing going to be? Well, you can't go up, you can't fly on an airplane without taking a vaccine. You can't go to school without a vaccine, right? All of us have to do our part to stop this madness, okay? I don't really care, because I don't have a job that they're going to fire me from for doing this type of thing. If I get arrested, I don't care. I'm not going to fire myself. Some of you might have that as a situation. And if you do, and I guess you just got to do what you got to do. You got to comply. And that's what they're counting on. They're not counting on guys like me that don't give a fuck. You can drag me out, and I actually told that guy, I hope you beat me and kick me in the ribs so we can get that on video, so then we can prove to everybody it's not about the mask, it's about compliance. So that's what I wanted to prove today. Obviously, I proved it 100%. So now everybody else should go do it too, so we can end this madness.
There's your true note in Gemini lesson of the week. Bye for now. I'll see you guys tomorrow.